Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Kai, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into today's video. You guys, it is finally that time of the year where we're getting into some exotic nails, some exotic spring nails to be specific. And I feel like I do an exotic spring nail set every year, or at least I did one last year, and that one was really fun. And I'm still so proud of myself for that nail set. And if you haven't seen it, I'll put it in the card above for you guys to see. But I thought it'd be a good time to do another one and see if I could do another very exotic and unique freestyle for the spring. So those are going to be our plans for today. So without me further rambling, let's actually get into the video. Now, I have been doing my nails very frequently recently, so I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into applying my peel it off base coat. And usually before applying the gel, I always like to go in with a little bit of cuticle oil first, just to provide myself with a little bit of protection from this gel. Obviously with this peel it off base coat, I can easily remove the nails later, but the oil just makes it a lot less stressful for my natural nails when I go ahead and remove them. After applying my peel it off base coat, we're going to go ahead and size out our nail tips for today. Now, usually I would go in with some almond nails, but for today, I wanted these to be slightly longer than the nail tips that I do have, so I'm going to be using some square ones instead. And as always, I'm making sure that they fit sidewall to sidewall and that the fit is nice and comfortable. To cure on these nail tips, I am going to be going in with a little bit of base coat, and the only reason that I am using base coat is because nail glue doesn't really like to stick to this surface. And I have found that in comparison to top coat, base coat is definitely the superior substitute in this case. But if you are doing these nails to last, use regular nail glue as usual. That's definitely going to be the best product for longevity. And after curing these down, I'm going to take some straight edge nail clippers and I'm going to very slightly cut the tips of these nails off. For the most part, I'm going to be lining them up with my pinky nail. So in this case, I will be only cutting off the number and I'm just lining them up nice and evenly just to make sure that they're all the same length. And to make the process easier for us once we move on to the shaping and filing, I'm going to roughly cut them into the almond shape using these same straight edge nail clippers. Alrighty, so with our nails being fully prepped and ready to go, we're going to move straight into this acrylic application. And as always, we're keeping it very simple. We're doing the exact same thing that I do in like all of my videos, nothing's really going to be changing too much, except for the fact that recently I have been doing my application a lot thinner than I usually would, mainly because, as you guys know, I don't wear these to last, and it won't be necessary to get the structure quote unquote correct if I'm just going to be taking them off. So I'd rather just save the product and not waste it. Speaking of my application, I don't know why, but every single time I sit down to do a voiceover and I start talking about the acrylic application portion, I always feel the need to make an updated acrylic application video, even despite the fact that nothing really changes. I do the same thing for all of my application, so it's not necessary, but I don't know why, but I just feel like the videos that I do have are just not right. Like something's always missing, and I want you guys to have a really good feel for how I specifically do my application, because I know that a lot of you guys who watch my videos are beginners, and when you are a beginner, it's going to be very important for you to not only practice your own application, but to reference other artists as well. That's how you kind of develop your own. So I don't know, let me know if you guys would like an updated one. I feel like I just did one not too long ago, but again, I just feel like something's always missing. Anywho, yeah, we are moving on to this application, and I don't really know if I have anything to mention that's like particularly important, but I don't know, I'm in a very good mood. Like, how are you guys doing? I feel like I just checked in on you guys like in my last video. I don't really care, but anyway, how are you guys? Like, how are you guys doing and feeling? I'm feeling really good today. I actually edited the majority of this video during the daytime, and honestly, it's just been giving me so much life. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, I shouldn't say what's wrong with me. I don't know what's changing within me, but I'm definitely becoming a daytime, almost morning person. And this is something that I've mentioned briefly over the last 3 years that I've been making these videos, but I'm a very nocturnal person. Most of my videos I used to film at like 3 a.m. I used to edit until like the sun rose, and then I would go to sleep, and that was just my mode. Like, that was what really gave me the best results for, I guess, what I was going for at the time. But I don't know, recently I just feel maybe I'm getting older, and I don't feel like I operate the best at nighttime. So I've been really enjoying getting in my vitamin D and being in the sunshine and just being awake and present during the day. Now, I will say I have been kind of, not really the greatest with that. I feel like if I wake up any time before 7:30, it's not a good time for me. It's just not. I'm filming this voiceover on Saturday, and you'll probably see this on Sunday. But on Friday, I woke up at 5 o'clock unintentionally because I knew that I had to get some things done, and that was just not a good time. I was so tired. Not to mention, the first thing I did when I woke up was go to the gym. So that was just not a good experience. But also, listen, I went and I gave it my all, and that was that. Like, I did my best. Which, speaking of, I haven't really mentioned the gym and my kind of like fitness journey in a very long time. I feel like when I first mentioned it, I was still kind of getting into the groove of things, but now we're kind of solidified almost. It's been about a year, and obviously I do have a lot to learn, but I'm kind of like solidified. But when it comes to the times that I go to the gym, I definitely cannot go in the morning. It's just, first of all, this may be just me being weird, but I don't like going when there's nobody there. And the last time that I went, like I said, early in the morning, there was people there, but it wasn't the crowd that I was used to. So it just didn't feel the same. I like going when there's a lot of people, it's a lot of energy surrounding you. And also, I'm just gonna be real, I like going to the gym with people that are like kind of around my age range. It just feels more motivating. I don't know why, that makes no sense. But anyway, why am I talking about this? But anyways, yes, speaking of the gym, I do have a question. Very important question, you guys, okay? If there are any gym girlies out there that have natural hair, I need your input, okay? Now, I never talked about this because it was kind of just something I did randomly. I'm a very spontaneous person, and I just like do stuff, and it is what it is. As you guys know, I did have locks for a good majority of my channel. I think when I first started my channel in 2023, I already had locks for like 2 years, or at least a year and a half. But December of last year, I actually cut my locks off, and I just never said anything. I don't know why it's not something I talked about, because I felt like it was very freeing and very important for me. But yeah, I don't have locks, and I've been growing my hair out for about 4 months, and I'm kind of getting to a weird spot with my hair and activity, because I'm not like literally literally drenched, like soaking wet in the gym, but like I sweat, you know, like normal people, right? And I've just been having a pretty hard time figuring out what to do to my hair now that I'm working out, now that I'm moving my body, and now that my hair is like loose natural. And I haven't been a loose natural since I was in high school, you guys. So I don't know. This is definitely a relearning experience and also learning new things because this is not something that I've ever done before. Prior to last year, I was not active at all. If I was sweating at any point in time, it was only because it's super hot outside. But now I'm scared because this summer I will be natural. My hair is about 3 inches or so. I was not gonna let my locks grow out for that long before I cut them because I already knew that I wasn't gonna be able to deal with the transitioning from locks to loose natural. And I definitely was not gonna comb them out because y'all, my hair was fried, and that was one of the main reasons why I cut it. So anyway, what was I saying? My hair is very short, so I can't really do too much with protective styling, at least on myself. But yeah, let me know if there's anyone out there with experience with that, especially if your hair is on the shorter side. But anyways, speaking of my hair and the fact that I haven't really told you guys about that, I cannot wait until we hit 100K because first of all, that's going to be such a huge milestone, at least for someone like me. I know that for a lot of people, 100K is kind of like a small channel on YouTube. But for me, when I first hit like 100 subs, that was insane for me. Like, so 100K is incomprehensible. So I'm so excited for that, and I cannot thank you guys enough for getting me to this point, and for whatever reason that you chose to stick around, I'm so glad that you did. But yeah, speaking of 100K, I cannot wait to hit that because I really want to do something special. I want to have a sit down Q&A where you guys get to know me and me as a person, not me as a nail tech or just as a pair of hands, me as an actual human being. And that is definitely something that I want to do. And I want to have like a survey where you guys just ask me questions, and once we hit that milestone, I'll answer them. I'll sit down. It'll just be me and you, and we're gonna have a chill time. It's gonna be great. But yeah, I am very excited for that. And again, I'm very grateful that I get to even say that. That is insane. But yeah, now that I'm kind of looking at how long I've been talking for, I feel like I should probably stop. So yeah, this application is done, and now we're gonna go ahead and shape and file these nails. Alright, so the application is done, and here is what these nails are looking like so far. The first thing that we're going to do is file over the main surface and the main body of these nails. And for today, I am going to be using my tried and true medium grit tornado bit from Melody Susie. This is going to be the only bit that I'm using for this portion. And with this bit, we're going to be doing almost everything. So we're going to be filing the main body, we're going to be correcting our apex, and we're also going to be sealing in the cuticles as well. Now, obviously, this is of course up to personal preference, but I like to simplify my life as much as I can, and using a nail file for rounded nails such as almond or even like really short nails, sometimes I just feel like using a nail file is just not very convenient for me. And also I found that using a carbide bit like this can take a lot of time out of this process. As you guys know, I really don't like to buff my nails too much because I just like to get it done. I like to go straight in to the nail art as soon as possible. So using something like this that creates a smoothing effect can make buffing them a lot less annoying, at least for me. Once that's done, I'm going to go in with my 80 grit nail file from Pana, and I'm going to be using this time to kind of just correct the almond shape. They're not too bad, but I didn't do any filing before we got into the application. So this is going to be the opportunity that we take to perfect our shape. lastly, I'm going to go ahead and buff away any of the scratches that there might be and smooth out any potential lumps and bumps that could kind of mess with the nail art once we get there. So we are now onto the nail art process, and for today, there is no reference. This is a freestyle, as I mentioned, and one that I was actually surprised at how well it turned out and how much I liked it. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just get all of my colors out and start mixing them onto my palette. Before we get into anything, I'm going to go ahead and wipe down my nails with just a little bit of alcohol. Alrighty, so the very first thing that we're going to do is get down some of these French tips for this nail set. There isn't any particular reason as to why I'm starting with my middle finger. I think I just picked up the wrong color and I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll just do the middle finger first. I'm going to be doing a burnt orange / umber color on my middle finger. And for these French tips, I'm going to be keeping them fairly similar to my natural smile line. So I will be referencing that as I go along with these French tips. For my index finger, I'm going to be doing an olive green French tip. For my thumbnail, I'm going to be doing a white French tip, following the exact same steps that I did for my other two nails. And now we're going to work on our green tortoise nail. This has been a nail that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I just didn't know what nail set to incorporate this in. So I figured now would be a perfect time to try this. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in with 2 layers of this jelly green gel polish. Now I'm taking some blooming gel and I'm also going to apply this to the entirety of the nail, making sure to apply it kind of thin. We are going to be doing a lot of layers with this one nail, so I try to make sure that I didn't go too crazy with the thicknesses for some of these layers. After that's on there, I'm going to go in with a super dark green and I'm going to take a dotting tool and I'm kind of just going to color this on in spots. It is a tortoise nail, so it doesn't have to be super perfect, but I did try and make sure that these weren't super close together because this is, of course, going to bloom and spread out. We're now moving into some airbrushing, and if you guys saw my last video, and if you didn't, check that out. That one was really fun and probably my favorite one thus far for the spring. But in my last video, we did do a fair bit of complaining. We did do a lot of complaining for the airbrushing section because it was a lot. It was definitely a lot of airbrushing in that nail set. Luckily, this one's fairly simple. I'm going to be first airbrushing my middle finger, and then I'm also going to be airbrushing my index finger and I think my pinky, and that's about it. For my middle finger, I'm going to be airbrushing the center of the French tip area using a light yellow. I got this color by mixing a light nude and some yellow airbrush paints from Savland. And before curing, I'm going to wipe down the sides and make sure that the color is isolated directly on top of the French tip. And as I said, we're also going to be airbrushing the pointer finger as well, except this one's going to be isolated towards the bottom half of the French tip. Initially, I was going to do this a lighter brown, but I decided that a darker brown would really help the green to pop and stand out. So I did go in with 1 to 2 drops of the black airbrush paints as well. And lastly, for my pinky nail, I'm going in with some white airbrush paints, and I'm going to be creating another ombre. The ombre does come up pretty high, but I want to make sure to include a little bit of that nude just to make sure that it's evident that it's an ombre. But yeah, it is pretty close to the cuticle area. And before I cure for each of these colors, always make sure to wipe down the sides with some alcohol just to make sure that I'm not curing these gels directly onto my skin and potentially risking contact dermatitis. We definitely do not want that. For this tiger nail, I wanted it to be a little bit shiny. I was kind of deciding on whether I wanted to use a cat eye gel or an iridescent chrome powder, but I wanted it to be kind of scattered. So I went in with the cat eye gel instead, and I'm only going over the French tip area of this nail. Because the cat eye kind of drowned out the color underneath it, I'm going in with this umber colored jelly gel polish, and I'm going to be applying it towards the outer rim of the French tip. And to create a nice blend between the outer edge and the center, I'm using an ombre brush to kind of just roughly drag that color inwards and make it look a little bit more seamless. And now we're going in with some black gel polish to create the tiger stripes. Now for this nail, I wanted to try something a little bit different. Usually when I do tiger stripes, I usually try and keep the stripes kind of going towards the center of the nail, but for this one I wanted them to be coming from the center and going outwards. So that's the only difference that I really did. And luckily, because these are tiger stripes and you know, obviously it's fur, it doesn't have to be particularly perfect in any way. So I did take some liberties, and some lines are going to be thicker, some are going to be thinner, and that really helps it come together and look a lot more convincing. And during this time, I'm also going to be doing a combination of zebra stripes and leopard print on my pinky nail. And for this, as you can see, I am using some black gel polish. We're going back to our blooming gel, and we're going to focus on our pinky nail for just a bit. I'm going to go over this nail with a single layer of that blooming gel, again making sure that it's nice and thin. once that's on there, I'm going to be going in with some blooming gel flowers on top of the zebra stripes. I didn't want to go over it too much because this pink isn't the most opaque, so I tried to kind of find areas that weren't too busy because I knew I was going to have to go in with more color and kind of fill it in, if that makes sense. So this tortoise nail is actually going to have a silver rim around it, so I'm going to go in with a single layer of matte top coat so that we can be prepared for the chrome work that comes later. And after curing that matte top coat for a full 60 seconds and buffing that surface, I am going to go in with a sheer black gel polish around this nail to create a nice black outline. And as you guys know, whenever I'm doing chrome, I like to mix some black gel polish and top coat to create a really shiny burnish. Something about the top coat just really makes the chrome come alive. So if you've never tried that, I definitely do recommend it. Of course, don't put too much top coat. You really just want enough to make it just a little bit sheer. After getting on that border, I did cure it for about 20 seconds, and now I'm going directly in with my silver chrome powder, and I'm just going to rub that in and burnish it as best as I can. And now we're getting into probably my favorite flower that I've done in a very long time. I'm going to be using some 3D sculpting clays to help me create these petals. And this is a lot different in comparison to the solid nail glue gel that I used from a cart or the white one that you guys have been seeing in my last couple of videos. These are a lot more solid and stable and not as sticky, which is really something that I need, especially for these flower petals that I want to be kind of frilly, kind of thin and convincing. The only problem is though, is because they aren't super sticky, it is kind of hard to get them to stick down. So if you are working with this, I would recommend laying down a very small area of base coat for this to stick to before you do any of the 3D work. But anyway, I am going to be doing these flower petals, and for the most part, I'm going to be rolling out balls, smushing them down, and kind of placing them down and making them look like they're kind of blowing in the wind. I don't really know. I kind of just like pull certain pieces, lift some pieces up, press them down, and that's virtually how I get my petals to look the way that they do. And for each of these petals, I do like to make sure to cure them individually. Okay, so here we're getting into the last bit of airbrushing. I'm going to be using the remainder of the white inside of my airbrush to create a little bit of detailing in the center of this flower. And I'm also going in with a little bit of yellow as well. And to really get some of those details going, I decided to border the inner parts of the edges of the petal with a dark sort of like burgundy or maroon color. And I also put a little bit of that burgundy into the center of these petals, again, to create some detailing. I didn't go super crazy. I wasn't really too concerned with a whole lot of detailing for this flower because there are going to be a lot of different details in other areas of this nail set. So yeah, I went in with that burgundy, and then at some point I added a couple of dots in the middle. I did some white striping on the inner parts of the petals, but again, nothing too crazy. Alright, so that is virtually all of the gel work that we're going to be doing for this nail set. We're now going to get into curing down some of these charms and rhinestones, and I decided to start off with a nail that kind of turned into a fail. I was going to do a cross chain nail, so as you can see, I am curing down some chains onto my nails. Now, in reality, you can kind of discard this entire section. I wanted to include it because I wanted you to see why I didn't include it, and the reason is the chain was a little bit too close to the tip of my nail in order for the cross to actually fit and look right. If you do want to do something like this, I would definitely recommend doing a shorter chain, or at least curing on the cross first so that you have a reference for where the chain should go. But yeah, I didn't end up sticking with this. I had to end up just taking this off and doing something else, and I ended up opting for what you saw in the thumbnail, which is just a cross in the middle and a couple of gold beads at the tip of the nail. Now we're getting into the gold beads for my thumbnail, and as you can see, I did kind of apply the rhinestone glue a bit crazily. I really just think that you only needed like 3 dots. I wasn't sure what the placement was going to be when I was actually doing this, so I just applied an entire stripe, which is not really ideal, especially once we get into the top coating. You can definitely see the rhinestone glue. So if you do decide to do this nail, only apply the rhinestone glue where you're going to be applying these beads. It just makes it look a lot more clean and seamless. And I'm closing off my pinky nail with just a couple of gold beads directly in the center of those blooming gel flowers. So now we're getting into something fun. And by fun, I mean, I was a little scared, okay? Now, this was my first time using a tool like this. If I was doing piercing nails in the past, I was usually using a drill bit, but I wanted to try this one instead. And I'm not gonna lie, this gave me flashbacks to when I was like 12. And I remember poking myself with a thumbtack in school and being so afraid that I was going to get tetanus. And this brought me back to that because the amount of times that I poked my thumb was insane, and I was just not having a good time. And yeah, I don't know, like, this is such a random fact about me, but tetanus is one of the scariest. It's just, I've always been afraid of tetanus since I found out what it was, and I was scared. I was scared. I poked myself like 3 times, so definitely do be careful. That's all I'm gonna say, and make sure you've got your shots. I mean, you should if you're like an adult. I have my shots. I don't know why I'm so afraid of dying from tetanus, but either way, make sure that you're being very, very careful. It might be beneficial to do the holes before you even do any of the gel work, but this was kind of a last minute thing, so that wasn't something I was really thinking about. But either way, definitely do be very careful. And that's going to conclude all of the work for this nail set. So we're going to go ahead and close things off with a single layer of top coat. And of course, I'm making sure to get into all of the nooks and crannies and all those tight spaces. So these nails are all done, and here's what they are looking like. I'm gonna finish off this nail set with just a little bit of cuticle oil. that completes today's set. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this one. Now, just between me and you, okay, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. This was not supposed to be the nail set that I was supposed to do today. I was actually supposed to do something that was very light pink, very sage green, kind of fairy-like, almost like cottagecore, but somehow this nail set became very exotic, very colorful, like full of patterns and textures, and I love that. I love that for me. It's definitely not what I was going for, but I really do love the outcome. There's something about animal print and spring and flowers that just really does it for me, and it does it for so many other people, because there's so many nail sets that I see all the time that have tiger and zebra print and leopard and flowers and gold, and I just love it. I really do. And yeah, I'm just very proud of myself for this nail set, the same way that I was proud of my exotic spring nails from last year. Now, if I had to pick, I don't really know which one I would pick. I think in terms of craziness, I would probably go with last year, but in terms of my actual aesthetic, I would definitely go for these. This is a nail set that I would certainly save for vacation in the summer. I'd probably have to tweak a couple of things, like there are some things that maybe I'd do differently if I were to redo these. I would love to try and get that cross chain down packed, because I was kind of sad that I had to take that up. It just didn't really look right. It kind of looked like a witch hat, which I wasn't really going for. But yeah, you guys let me know how you feel about this one in the comments. Now, because this is a freestyle, and because obviously it's my nail set, I'm going to be biased, but what do you guys think this nail set falls on in terms of a tier? I'm gonna let you guys decide that one in the comments, because I can't really say for sure. I know it's high up there. I really do like it, but again, I might be biased, so you guys let me know in the comments. As I mentioned earlier, I am very, very excited to move forward in this space with such a large community, at least large in my eyes. Listen, 50 subscribers is large to me, you know? But I'm excited to move forward and do some more spring nail sets and just really give you guys what you guys came for. And yeah, I hope that you guys have been enjoying seeing these more spring-like nail sets, even though we're kind of in that weird space and seasons where it's not really spring yet, but it kind of basically is. I will definitely be coming with some more spring nail sets very, very soon. But yes, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you guys in the next one.